I feel like you have a tendency to expect yourself to be somebody that you're not, and you need to let that go so you can be who you are, and that will just give you some semblance of peace, you know, and be realistic with what you're actually, how you're actually treating yourself and how you're treating other people. I hope I will see you again sometime. So I have a feeling like, again, you don't really do a lot of introspection. And I feel like this card is like an encouragement to say, I want to see a happy version of myself again. I want to see myself again as who I am, and not with other people's projections and not with my own, castle in the sky idea of who I'm supposed to be. Um, and your inner self is looking forward to that. And when you take the time to do so, it says, you're so easy to see through. Now, I feel like for a couple of you, this came across as really mocking. And there's like this voice, but I don't feel like it was made to be that way. Some of you are going to interpret it that way, and I want to stop that right now and tell you that, you need to forgive yourself for not having. I feel like this is probably coming from a place of lack of boundaries. And you have to forgive yourself for not being the person you needed when you were going through that time. Um, and the lives that you're creating for yourself and for other people, people can see through them. Some people can't, but they're probably naive. And that's something that this reading is trying to tell you, is that you know your own lies. You know the lies that you tell every single day to yourself. And taking a step back and allowing yourself to be honest will free you from some of these negative patterns and being able to just exist without having to put up some kind of a boundary or a layer to protect you from a scenario. And just being honest with yourself that you are lying to yourself, even if there's small little white lies. But I feel like for a few of you, there's some major lying that you're doing towards yourself. Either lying that you're a terrible person, which you are not, or lying about thinking who you think you are versus what you are. This one is, I focused on you instead of my pain. Now, I feel like a lot of you attach to people, like, because you have a hard time connecting with people typically. What this card is telling me is you're the type of person that when you found, like, those one or two or three people that you really attach to, I mean, you cling the hell to those people. Like, you are sitting there being like, this person is my world, or you would almost like overinflate it because it's almost like feeling a balance where, because you have so much missing in this area, you completely throw your love and attention into this one person. So then when it doesn't work out or it's too much for people to handle, things fall apart. And I have a feeling that's a pattern that you've been unsure of why you can't break out of it. But that's part of the reason why, is because, like, well, if you're pouring all of your bucket on one person, then they can't have a healthy dynamic with you when you're doing that, and you're using those people to focus your attention on, instead of on your own inner pain with whatever was going on in the past, um, or even in the present too, um, but using other people, or sometimes an idealization. Some of you, this might be an application to focusing on an idealization of yourself instead of what you actually are, is preventing you from facing what's kind of the underlying issue. And then I was careless with you. And I think that some of you need to be more honest with yourself about how you've treated yourself in the past. And this piece of you wants you to understand that, in some ways, you're not taking care of yourself in the way that you should. You shouldn't have made those friendships that you knew were going to hurt you, or you made decisions that you knew were going to hurt you, but you did it anyway. And being able to admit to yourself that you did that is what this part of you is wanting you to address. And then, kind of following up with that, though, it does say, I do wish you well. And so I kind of feel like after kind of this whole reading, you've been kind of kind of scratching your head a little bit and, kind of being like, you're aware of some of your inner self-loathings and some of the little demons might be starting to chirp in your ear as you're listening to this. But what this card is reassuring you is you do wish yourself well, you do want to be happy, and you do have the potential to break out of this numb spot, this complacent place that you're in right now. And that there's a lot of you that is rooting for you and can connect and can do those things that you think aren't possible. I feel like some of you've been stuck, this negative piece of you is so loud that you've just kind of given up with being able to see anything outside of it. And this card is for you to tell you that there is a lot of you that does want better for you. And not all of you is hating yourself, not being able to connect, all this other stuff. Like, that's not true at all. That's why this card is here. So, I'll be very firm with you, because some of you, I have a feeling, are kind of stubborn about hearing that message. And you're like, no, that's not true. I'm like, bullshit. It is. Got it in writing now. Damn it. Okay, so finally, the last part of this is I'm going to be pulling some guidance on what can you do to help with healing this wound. Now, I feel like with you guys, even just off the bat acknowledging the wound, I think is going to be crucial for your healing, because of the fact that I don't even think you really knew you had an inner child wound, or you didn't really know what to even begin with. So, okay, so let me see here. We've got, no. Else. Alright, now I'm good. Okay, so you got 5 cards. Man, 5 is the lucky card today, so... Is this it? Okay. Alright, so we have... Alright, so we have integration in reverse, isolation, we got existence in reverse, politics, and slowing down. Ooh, yeah, alright, so that kind of explains things. So, this reverse card with integration, this card is about really tapping into yourself and taking all those different versions of yourself and being able to work on having them get along inside of your head. Because I feel like there's all this fragmentation that's going on inside of you, and that's part of the reason why you can't really connect and really know what your inner world is doing. And so being able to first identify those different pieces of yourself and then working on getting them to work together, highly recommend. I think I'm going to mention this earlier in the video, but doing internal family systems work with a therapist would be very, very beneficial to you. So that way you can really start seeing the sides of yourself that maybe you can't see. Or at least if you're working on yourself, make sure that you're doing it with someone who is a balanced, healthy individual. But yeah, doing that integration work is going to be important. This card, this isolation, it's this crystallized person who's like crying, and it's like they've turned into ice. And I feel like you're the type of person that, you've been through so much. The reason why you can't feel anything isn't because there's nothing there, it's because you've put up such a thick wall to protect yourself that you don't even know where to begin to even see yourself. And so the first step of kind of working through that is being willing to acknowledge that this wall even is there, and understanding that, being able to release it is going to be part of your process going forward of just being able to see what's even under the surface, because you're not going to be able to see the amazing world you have under all of the layers of trauma until you kind of even take a step back to even look at it. And existence in reverse, again, I feel like for some of you, there's like this resistance towards being here. And again, that's coming from like just you being surrounded in this void and not being able to attach yourself to anybody or anything. And you really kind of struggle with that. It's kind of interesting that because the pile number 2 has something kind of similar to this vibe. But in your case in particular, I think it's because you don't realize that you're detaching yourself from existence by resisting connecting with other people, by resisting feeling your emotions, resisting facing or making yourself so numb that it's like, what's the point of existing? And it's like, well, there are things that are worth, existing for. There are things and feelings that you have and can experience. It's just that you've cut yourself off from it and being able to feel it. And also not even knowing how to, I think, in some cases. And so taking the time to even just allow yourself to exist will really kind of put things into perspective and help you understand a side of yourself that maybe you haven't seen for a long, long time, or it was never developed because of your dynamic at home. Politics, again, I have a feeling like you play games with yourself all the time where it's like, again, you've got this snake and there's the multiple faces, like all these inner illusions of, there's like, I feel like you've got one of those, you've got a really loud inner critic. And I think you give way too much power to this inner critic and listen to it too much. And I want to remind you that you have a choice of which voices inside of you that you listen to. And I'm going to tell you, this inner critic doesn't know what the hell it's talking about at all, because I have a feeling it's so distorted with other people's voices that, again, with that family dynamic at home, I have a feeling that you had some people feed you some really nasty lies about you, and you believed it because you didn't know any better. And being able to detach yourself from all that stuff is, crucial. And then I think also, though, I feel like there's a darker side to this of some of you are not willing to face your shadow aspect. You're not willing to admit to yourself that, hey, I am flawed and I do sometimes do things that hurt other people's feelings. Maybe that could be your dynamic. That's not everybody's, but I feel like some of you got to be really honest with yourself. And when you accept that side of yourself, that's all part of shadow work and integrating the darker sides of ourselves. Like, everybody has dark sides. Everybody has good sides. So no matter what your depression tells you, you have both. You have the capacity to be a wonderful person just as you are a terrible person. And how you address that dynamic and are willing to be honest with yourself is the first step to being able to heal that and understand that they got to work together in order for you to become a whole person again that can work together with itself. And then finally, slowing down, you've got this cute little turtle, the rainbow, whatever, and I'm feeling you, again, because you're kind of distracting yourself and trying to avoid this dynamic, just take some time to rest and reflect inward. And don't push yourself. I have a feeling that some of you, either your family's pushing you to be faster than what you're capable of, or you're kind of in a spot where you're like, well, I'm just going through the motions. And slow down and really kind of see, what direction are you going in life? What is your relationship with yourself? What is that inner void thing that you were dealing with growing up that's affecting you now? Taking the time to process that is going to be really crucial to help you with starting to melt that inner ice and get really to the root of what's kind of going on with you. I hope I see you guys at a future reading, because definitely I feel like there's a lot of work here that's going to be done when you start being able to address this stuff. But, okay. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out this reading. If you like what you heard, or if you got any comments or questions or requests for future readings, go ahead and comment them in the chat. And I will see you next time. Later!